guys want to see me in Twitch, you can. Twitch.tv/keyinfluencer. And we are live on Twitch. A little early. To be early is on time. To be on time is late. Okay, great. Okay, good. We're starting. Oh, wow. Welcome to Culture & Co. Weekly. Welcome to the weekly show, which is almost like a stream of consciousness and a rap song without any hooks and any verses. Literally, I freestyle this whole thing. I come off the top of my head and I literally talk about what I see in culture, what I see happening in the space. You guys can hear me in Twitch land. Can you guys hear me? Okay, sound check 1, 2, 3 in Twitch land. I've been doing this show in Twitch, in LinkedIn, in Facebook for at least a year. And then when I got on Clubhouse, we started simulcasting in the Clubhouse. So thank you for joining. Thank you, Twitch. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you, YouTube and Twitter and all the other places I live. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hope you guys can hear me. Give me a sound check. Let me know what city you're from, please. You know we love to do cities. Welcome to the new people. Welcome to Clubhouse. Welcome to all the new badges. The Authenticated is a community that's been around for about 4 years, but we have a residency here at Clubhouse. I would like to say we were kind of doing clubhousing before Clubhouse. It's been certainly, really a blessing and an honor to be able to, ride the wave of a platform that is having its own wave and its own moment. And we've discussed that many weeks on the show. Really excited about got a phone call. Really excited about the growth of the platform. And excited for all of the followers, both to Authenticated in this community. We are founders, we are funders, we are creatives. We are, oh Lord, sorry, I'm trying to do 5 things at once. We are many things, but we are driven by the future. We are driven by a passion to build the businesses, start the movements, leave the damn job that you hate, and do the things you want. And I've certainly modeled that in my own career. I've been an executive in the music business, pivoted into technology in '98, I guess. Spent about 12 years in the advertising world, worked for Omnicom, worked for a bunch of other places, and then started my own agency. And then was in social media 2008, in the height of sort of this thing taking off. And then built another agency and then sold it and then moved to LA to start my third life, which is at the intersection of brand and culture and venture. So I bring a lot of that into the Authenticated. It's sort of the spirit behind the community. So a lot that I want to talk about today. Okay, enough about me. I want to talk about the things I'm seeing, the things I'm hearing, the people we met with this week, the visions we're getting from God and universe and UFOs. I don't know, all the things that happened to me in a week. I kind of use this weekly show to kind of unpack those things. If you guys have been in the Authenticated, you've probably seen the Alexandria Library of Interest. We do shows around agriculture because we have founders in our network who are investing in ag tech. We do shows around all kinds of things because they're generally driven by the interest of our members. We just opened membership. If you're interested, you can text me. My text number is in the bio, 415-843-8100. Text join. We opened up the membership. I'm really excited. Part of growing on Clubhouse, I was building Authenticated for probably 1,000 people, but then we hit 800,000 or so, or 700,000 followers and growing pretty rapidly. And we were like, well, how do we scale this thing so we can meet Tokyo? We can meet the shoe designer who's maybe hasn't raised any venture capital, or we can meet the needs of the woman who's like, I'm tired of this fucking job. I hate it. And I really wish I could go do what those people talk about on Clubhouse. So we built it. We designed it. We also believe in, if you can't find it, build it yourself. And so we built the community that sorry, all these people are like texting me from Africa, from everywhere, Philippines. Hey, what's up, Asia? Hey, Philippines. Okay. And so, yeah, if you can't find it, then build it, And so I had been in many, communities and sort of, gathering spaces, and just felt like I didn't see myself in them. And so I built and designed what I wanted for my community and what I wanted, what I heard my community saying they wanted. And so that's what we built. We built an Authenticated. So happy to say we just launched a sort of a new tier of the Authenticated. Excited. If you guys want to learn more about it, text join, DM me. It's too easy to find me. Not centering the show about joining the Authenticated, but it's pretty easy if you guys want to get in. Now is the time. So much to say. I am overwhelmed by visions of the future. I am convinced that this summer is going to be a combination of the summer of 2021 I'm referring to is going to be a combination of the Renaissance meets the Roaring 20s meets the summer of love. I talk to a lot of people. We obviously do shows in this thing that range from agriculture to sex. Shout out to my Common Nights fans. We did an incredible show the other night with a founder in our network. I started a show with her named Chloe McIntosh, and we do a show on self-pleasuring. And we did a show around pleasure in food, pleasure in music, pleasure in sex. So we get a lot of inputs from people about the future. And so I'm really convinced that summer of 2021 going into 2022 is the creative Renaissance Roaring 20s summer of love that we've been waiting for. It's funny because, like I said, I think about the future. I'm even looking at these sweats I'm wearing. I've been wearing these sweats for a year. Like, I love athleisure. It's great. It's wonderful. I have super bougie athleisure stuff that I've bought in this pandemic. It's probably the only fashion pieces I've bought. But I'm starting to think about the future. I'm thinking down to my luggage game is whack. I deeply need a new I was never really a luggage person, but I'm literally thinking about where I'm going to be moving around and thinking about not just thinking about, we have new investors and partners that I'm super excited about who are also helping me think about places around the world, places that will bring the Authenticated: Iceland, Lebanon, GCC, UAE, all that kind of stuff. So I'm thinking about my luggage game, which is just whack. I have whack luggage. And then I was just thinking about what I want to do personally to my style. I Marie Kondo'd my closet during this pandemic, and I can't wait to define pieces and buy really, really good pieces, that amazing coat and that amazing shoe and all that kind of stuff. I'm really, really excited about building my capsule collection and streamlining my clothes, literally getting rid of my clothes. Yes, I see you, Japan. I'm coming, I promise. Shout out to my folks watching me on Twitch. You guys are great. You guys have been with me for the entire year, and I really appreciate it. Pre-Clubhouse, you guys are with me, so thank you. I really appreciate it. But I think about the artisans out there. I think about the creative economy, and I think about all of the innovations. I see my friend Sherry in the audience from Sansar. I think about the work that they're doing in social VR and the fact that I can build a venue, I can literally build real estate. And I've been thinking a lot. It's so interesting to see Sherry in the audience here in Clubhouse. I've been thinking a lot about real estate. It was one of the things I wrote on my whiteboard, my vision board for 2021 was writing the word real estate. And I do believe when you write things down, they come to life. I used to do business with this guy in Dubai, Avi Biljani, and Avi said some profound things to me one time. He was like me, he's like you, I have lots of ideas, but unless I go from idea to deck, then I something to the effect of it's not serious unless I go from idea to deck, to actually putting that idea into a deck. And I always appreciate that about having ideas. And so I wrote on the board this year, the real estate, and it's just crazy out of nowhere. Well, let's not call it nowhere, but we are now involved in taking Authenticated into other parts of the world. So I wrote it on the board like January 2nd, and then by January 8th, literally a new partner, investor, let's say, came into my life, and we are now planning to do a lot of what we're doing here in physical formats. I'll just leave it at that. And so it's caused me to really think about two forms of real estate. One, because Sherry is here and I've been talking to Sansar about the work they do in social VR, it's caused me to think about digital real estate and physical real estate. And so when I did the show the other night, Common Nights, I made everybody in the room, I made them visually transport themselves to like a swanky hotel room, because I love swanky hotels. I'm a swanky hotel dude. I'm a sucker for an incredible hotel. So actually every once in a while you'll see me do a show in here called Room Service, just because like I actually miss room service. So we started a show called Room Service, and it's just like I feel like I transport myself to those incredible evenings in Berlin and Paris and Atlanta and all the cities that I was moving around in, and those those extra large hotel suites, right? I think about my days in the music industry when I had unlimited expense account at Columbia Records, and I would just do dumb shit just because I could, and I think about what I want to see in the future, I see. So when I did the show the other night around Common Nights, I actually saw us doing that same thing in an amazing hotel suite or an amazing house. And part of the partnership that we're working on is these beautiful homes in Iceland and Spain. And I've been spending a lot of time looking at homes online, and because I'm helping them think through some strategy around acquisition of new homes. And so it's just put me in this space of thinking about 2021 and 2022. And I really believe that what comes out of 2021 and 2022 is the greatest explosion of creativity, of art, of imagination. I see my friend Yona in the room. Imagination. We work a lot in the imagination space. And just love, sex, lots of it. People are lonely. People are, whether you live at home with someone or you're alone in your apartment, there's what I've been getting, let's just say, from my community is, a deep loneliness and wanting to hug somebody, wanting to, it's so weird because most people know me as an extreme extrovert. I do dinners, I throw parties, I do things. I'm an introverted extrovert, by the way. I'm a reluctant socialite. So people know me by that. People are like, oh my God, how are you handling this pandemic? And literally the pandemic has served me well because it forced me to stop and think about the why. Why am I gathering people? What is it that I want out of, why did God give me this ability to put people together, either in a digital room, virtual room, or physical room? Whether it's Clubhouse, whether it's Twitch, you guys are watching me, whether it's a VR room. What is the why behind that? If you guys are Simon Sinek fans, we actually have all of our clients, before we work with them, watch Simon Sinek why video. And I've been thinking a lot about my why. And I've had time to do that because I'm not bouncing from Soho House Malibu to Soho West Hollywood, whatever my life was before, the water cooler, the water cup tour, where my friend Brian Dobbins is saying, the water cup tour, where you go from one water cup meeting to another. This pandemic has given me the ability to process, first of all, and say, I'm not doing those meetings anymore. I'm just not. You will not give me, you better get on my Calendly and get a fucking 15-minute fucking meeting. That's it. Like, I'm just not doing those meetings that aren't the ones I don't need to do, let's just say. No respect. But I'm also going to never not lean into that weird meeting that you're like, why is this on my calendar? And then you take the meeting and then like the universe goes, that's why you're meeting with that person. I live for those moments where I'm like, what? Who am I talking to on my calendar? Oh, and then you talk to that person and you're like, oh, that's why I'm supposed to talk to that person. So I don't want to like squelch that out, but I'm certainly building in guardrails, right? I actually just went through my calendar yesterday, like my scheduling of how I'm going to move, how I'm going to structure my calendar. And I went through my calendar with a friend of mine and we literally structured in playtime. A lot of you have been listening to me for a while, and I've been using the word kairos. The Greeks used to measure time in two ways. One is chronos, which is where we get the word chronology, and kairos, which is a special time. The idea of time is mentioned 86 times in the Bible, and it's time as a spiritual measurement is what kairos is about. And we've done several shows in here about kairos. And the thing about kairos is that kairos requires interpretation. You have to understand when you're in a kairos moment. You have to stop and literally recognize the moment that you're in. We are on a global macro kairos moment, sure, but I recognize my own kairos moment. And you look back in your life and you can look at those kairos moments and go, I remember that. I can't explain why that came together or why I met that person or why that thing happened. And it's probably is kairotic, as my friend likes to say. It's a kairotic moment. But I am certainly living in my own kairos moment. And I think back on this pandemic with a lot of, it was both the hardest year I went through, but also the most glorious, insight-filled, I mean, it can go on and on and on. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful mess. And so it gave me a lot of time to reflect and think. And so when I'm thinking about this 2021 going into 2022, sort of the creative renaissance meets roaring 20s meets the summer love, it also makes me think about what role I want to play as a host. Actually, one thing that's been interesting about Clubhouse is I love this thing I talk about a lot, which is job titles that don't exist yet. And there's something really interesting about this Clubhouse experience because it's making me really appreciate the role of a proper host, someone who brings people together. And I'm doing that in digital format, but I also do that in physical. My dinners are the dinners you want to be at because I haven't thought intently about who's at the dinner. Like I've prayed about it, I've manifested, I've meditated on it, I've done all the things so that there's no, like, I want serendipity. I want like those experiences to be the nights you remember, to be the people that you carry on life with, that you find love maybe at my table, right? And maybe not love like sex, like it could be sex. I mean, I hope it's sex. That'd be great. But it doesn't have to be like you hook up, right? Like I did that life. I did the parties where like, yeah, hire the DJ, beautiful women, beautiful guys, and like hopefully lots of people get laid the entire night. It's great. Now I'm like, wow, like what if you met because you shared a passion over a meal, you met your next investor, you met your potential partner, you met, whatever. And I think about like the dinners I do that way. And I think about this room that way. It sort of annoys me that like Jackie in Tel Aviv can't meet, maybe she knows Liz in LA, right? Or that Grammar and Ebenezer don't know each other. Like that fucking bothers me. It just does. Like, because I am a Black Italian, like I want to I want to feed people and I want to hug people, and I want, so this part is a little limiting for me looking at bubbles here. And then looking at Twitch, like, I love that you're talking to me, but like all I see you is in a feed. I just see your texts in the feed. Thank you. I love you. I love you. Who else is on here? James was one of the first voices on Clubhouse last year. I connected. Let's talk on Club. Okay, cool. Hi, Judith. What's up? Yeah. Shout out to you, Judith. Hope you're watching in Clubhouse. See me in Clubhouse. I really want people to get to know each other on a really deep level. And I, you know, Authenticated was born out of, in full transparency, me thinking I knew my business partners, right? Like thinking I really knew them, and having some bad situations happen with business partners. And you're like, damn, like I thought I really knew those business partners. And no, I didn't take the time to really get to know them on a really deep level. You know, I didn't really take the time to understand their why, you know? And so I got a situation where, like, you know, my then lawyer was deceitful, and I was like, damn. And then literally so my lawyer ended up being deceitful. I had another business partner that was horrible, and I was going to South Africa, and I was going to sleep, and the universe and God speaks to me at like 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. and literally woke me up and was like, you need to connect 50 people on WhatsApp. And I'm like, yo, let me go to sleep. And I literally couldn't. I had to get up. I got up and just put 50 people together on WhatsApp. And those 50 people started connecting with each other as I was going to Joburg. And I was running around in the bush and, you know, running around Joburg and Cape Town and looking at Cape Town, and people were connecting with each other. And I was like, wow, that is what I was supposed to do. And had I not leaned into that thing that said, you are supposed to connect people, this is what your gift is, then we wouldn't have this room Authenticated in here. I mean, I'd be on Clubhouse because I'm an early tech person, right? But the intentionality behind why I'm on Clubhouse and what I'm doing on Clubhouse wouldn't be there, because I would have listened to, I don't even want to get into it, but other people who were like, see, this is why you shouldn't trust people. This is why you shouldn't trust LA. This is why, LA people are just, and yes, LA people are sneaky. Don't believe the Bentley. The book comes out soon. It's a joke. But people are not exactly who they are. And I lived in Atlanta for 15 years where people, for the most part, were who they said they were, right? And then I came to LA, and and by the way, my lawyer who wronged me was from Atlanta. So this theory doesn't hold any weight. But I just appreciate that I leaned in and listened to that voice that drowned out those other voices that said to you, you're not good enough, or you've been connecting people your whole life, but like they will wrong you. And you know what that voice is because you have the same thing. So I know that I am amongst company that can relate to this. And I really am excited about taking those rough moments and really putting into the Authenticated. So I spent the whole year literally, and I'm so blessed to live in a place where I can walk the beach, I can put my feet in sand. I just rewired my entire, like, how I do life, how I do my day. And so anyway, so last night I went through a deeper scaffolding of my time, because I wanted to be in alignment with Kairos. Back to Kairos. Part of Kairos is what we learned. I did 4 weeks of Kairos discussions in this room for those of you that were watching me. Kairos is about playtime. Kairos is about going back to respecting playfulness. Children live in Kairos. Sometimes I have a tree that I used to climb when I was 12, and sometimes when I'm writing business plans, I go back to that tree. It's in Alameda, California, and it's a little tree, and I go back to that tree and write my business plans. Sometimes exactly in the places where I played wiffle ball. Sometimes exactly in the places where I kissed that girl, right, or got my heart broken, or whatever, because I think about my younger self. I lived in Palo Alto. It's funny because I'm working on a magazine right now, and the internal working title is California Avenue. And for shout out to all my people who know Palo Alto, but California Avenue in Palo Alto was like it was like not University Avenue. So you have in Palo Alto, you have University Avenue, which heads right into Stanford, and then you have California Avenue, which was like the like not University Avenue, but it was like a little downtown, but it wasn't like popping, but it was popping like University. And if you live in Palo Alto now, you're looking at a completely different California Avenue than the one I grew up in. And so I did some research on California Avenue. It was a little town called Mayfield. And when Leland Stanford decided to put Stanford in Palo Alto, he went to the people of Mayfield, which is basically California Avenue, and said, I'm going to put Stanford here. But they wouldn't, they had bars. So all of California Avenue was bars. And they didn't do it. They were like, fuck it, we're just going to run saloons. And so Leland Stanford put Stanford on the land that it is now, and Palo Alto becomes what it is, largely because of the impact and the emergence of Stanford University. Anyway, so I was doing this magazine. I'm doing this magazine concept around California Avenue because California Avenue was like, it's like where the co-op was. It was like where I bumped into the homeless dudes who like worked at like Stanford Linear Accelerator, and they were like engineers, like so much like just not thinking about time and just like not worrying about time and not even worrying about my homework, to be honest with you. But so much of that exploration and playtime happened while I was like sneaking into Meyer and Green Library and like on Stanford's campus and like playing around, in the Rodin Sculpture Gardens and, doing mushrooms at Lake Lagunita, like all of the creativity of my teenage years, the innovation of taking hotel rooms on El Camino Real and turning them into my own Soho house. We had no money, by the way. So I actually had more money in my pocket in high school than I do now. I literally started a fake ID business. It was the best. I started a fake ID business in like my sophomore year of high school. And me and my wild Mormon friends, we were crazy. And shout out to Shane Mamone, all my wild and crazy Mormons in Vegas. Yes, there are wild and crazy Mormons in Vegas. I should write a book about that. But yeah, like we were industrious, let's just say. And we were creative and we liked girls. So it was really, it was fun. Like it was a fun time. But what I really loved about that period of time, speaking of time, that was a Kairos moment. I can look back on that period of time and see Kairos and see when I would meet this person and this person or have this insight. And now I can look back on my life. I turned 50 last year and I can look back and go, oh, that's why I was supposed to meet that person, or that's why these things happened. Right. And that's the beauty of Kairos. And that's what I've been exploring. So I want to also take this time to unpack Kanye West. And I generally do this show with zero agenda and zero, like, I just let God speak through me. And I woke up this morning and looked on Clubhouse, and there was a Kanye room. I guess they were playing like an old Kanye. Maybe they're still doing it. Shout out to the young guy who's doing, I don't even remember his name, but they were in there playing an old Kanye interview. And when I wake up in the morning, especially on Wednesday mornings when I do the show, I never know what I'm going to talk about. So I actually like doing that. By the way, I used to give speeches this way. They'd be like, oh, Mr. Andrews, you're a keynote in Dubai or Abu Dhabi or wherever, Jerusalem. And I would go and they were like, oh, can you send me your slides? No, I never send slides. If you want to book me, if you're out there and you book me, I'm not sending you my goddamn slides. I hate that. I literally hate that because I want to deliver to you. I work my ass off and then I lift my head up. And this is like my opportunity, almost therapeutically, to like just do stream of consciousness. But anyway, God was speaking to me this morning because I looked and there was a Kanye room. And I have not talked about this publicly, but I spent 6 months with Kanye. And I'm going to tell you the story because I think it's interesting, but I'll tell you the story. Okay. So my business, when I moved to LA, is advising growth stage startups. We work, we work with like companies that have raised capital, they, maybe either they're Series A or they're pre-seed Series A. And in certain cases, I might get the company that's like, okay, we've raised a shit ton of capital and we're going to pivot and we're going to do something new. And generally they call me for 1 to 3 reasons. One, I really understand launching something. So I'm really, really good at like using my Columbia Records 16-week grid. By the way, back in the music days, I see my friend Liz. I see Grammar. I see Columbia Records alums. Adrian Martinez. When I used to launch records as an executive at Columbia Records, we use a 16-week grid. So from the first single to the album was 16 weeks. And from week 1 to let's say 7 was like the first single, and we worked the markets. And then 7, you're starting to do long lead press. And then 9 or 10, whatever, second single or remix. And then you drop on 16 with this like momentum, right? With this force, right? And that same 16-week grid and all of those sort of like cadence moments is how I support entrepreneurs. So basically people call me for like, hey, help us think about go to market. That's one. The second reason people call me is because they know I know influential people who can do something for their product or their brand, and that they are leveraging culture. Generally, when the people call me, and the people that call me, they don't really understand how culture, let me say this in the right way. They don't understand the components of what makes cultural phenomena. They don't understand what makes a genre. They don't understand but they understand something's hot. So they just go, oh, this is super hot, but they couldn't tell you like all of the pieces, right? And that's the benefit of my career is like I built infrastructure. I didn't just work in hip hop. I helped build, if you heard me, we had Steve Rifkin on the other day. Steve Rifkin created Loud Records, but Steve Rifkin built the street team model. So when I get excited about my days in the hip hop and talk about these touchdowns I used to throw in high school, which is what I refer to the hip hop days, is what I'm most excited about is the systems that we built, the systems around hip hop that enable hip hop to become what it is. That's what I get excited about. So people call me for that reason, because I know cultural figures. And the third reason is they're raising capital, and I know some VCs or private equity people or family office people, and I know them in not just Sand Hill Road, Palo Alto. I know them in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Nigeria, whatever. And hopefully that you look at your cap table and go, oh, I want to diversify. Because I'm not I don't come from a traditional finance background. So that call came to me about 2.5 years ago. And welcome to you guys who are just joining. Welcome to Culture and Code Weekly. I got to do this Twitch because this is what happens. I got to reset the room. It's called Reset in the Room. Welcome to Culture and Code Weekly. It's a weekly show I do here in Clubhouse where I kind of go into my calls, go into my meetings, and kind of give to you the cheat codes and the gems. So take it what you want, share it, tell a friend, follow me, all the things. Okay, so 2.5 years ago, I got a call from a friend of mine that I worked with for another project. I don't remember where I met him. And he was like, yeah, I'm working for this company called Boosted Boards, and they make a skateboard that goes 25 miles an hour, blah, blah, blah. We think that we could really use your help in leveraging culture. Can you give us a culture strategy, blah, 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 blah. So I do my thing. I go and we start writing strategy. How do you leverage culture to launch your brand, blah, blah, blah. And I would say 2 months into the engagement, they call me, and they're based in Mountain View. They were based in Mountain View. Sad story. They're no longer around. And they said, Kanye West called us. He wants to meet with us. And I was like, oh, okay. Cool. And they're like 3 white dudes from Stanford, mechanical engineer, people that normally would not be in Kanye's world. So understandably, they were a little like, oh my God, Kanye West. And my music industry career and tenure like stops before the rise of Kanye. So I don't have any context with Kanye. I never worked in and around Kanye. I have zero. And to be honest with you, I liked at the time, right? I liked Kanye's music and I knew he was the producer, but I'm not like I couldn't tell you every single thing about Kanye. I didn't really, I mean, I knew about Kanye, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm in culture, but I wasn't like some of those people who are like, oh man, that beat he produced on the, I know more than the average bear, but so they're like, can you go with us to this meeting with Kanye? I was like, all right, cool. So I go to this meeting and it's me and these, three techie looking dudes, right? And they're very nervous. They're very like, oh my God, Kanye. And we go to Calabasas, which is so this is all weird. This is all very strange for me. There's some really interesting moments in this. Kanye's office is around the corner from my daughter's school, which my daughter at the time was going to a school in the Malibu, Calabasas area. And so there's an Erewhon, which is like a fancy grocery store that's around the corner from my daughter's school in Calabasas. It's like, I call it it's like the celebrity Erewhon. I mean, they're all celebrity Erewhons, but this is like the Calabasas Erewhon. So I'd been to that Erewhon many times. And so I met the guys at the Erewhon. They flew in from San Francisco. And we then went to Kanye's office, which was in this like office park. And when we walked in, he had taken this office park and turned it into Yeezy. What's the guy's name? Hold on, I'm trying. James Turrell. Okay, James Turrell. We'll get to James Turrell. Sorry, we'll get to James Turrell. If you guys are James Turrell architect fans out there, so he had turned this office park into the offices essentially of Yeezy, which was across the street. And then the office that I went into was like, stop calling me. People are calling me. The office that I went into was like, it was like, he had built this round space, and everything was really white. And so I remember when we walked in, he gave us all dictionaries, and there were like 6 of us. And the way he started the meeting was, he was like, turn to page 110, whatever, I'm making this up. And we all like, he's like, tell me what words in the dictionary like give you power. And this is like the first 5 minutes of our meeting with Kanye. And we all like highlighted words, and we went around and like talked about the words. And it was a really interesting way. I was struck by how, as someone who hosts people, as someone who's meeting lots of people, I really found that just to be so beautiful. It was like, imagine meeting people for the first time and like, I understand you through the way you interpret words. It was really fascinating. I mean, I was kind of like, oh, I like the way Kanye thinks. Like, this is really interesting. And so we go and, we're walking around the campus. Now, mind you, I don't do the whole, hey, Kanye, I worked at Columbia Records in 90, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? It's so irrelevant. And so Kanye doesn't have any context on me. So he thinks I'm like either a venture capitalist from the mobility space, because our whole conversation was about mobility. Kanye's obsessed with mobility. So as we get into this, what I begin to learn is that Kanye really wants to build. So he had not bought the Cody, Wyoming thing, Montana, Wyoming, whatever, where is that? Wyoming, Montana. And he was taking like these acres in Calabasas and turning it into this like playground. And he was thinking about mobility. And mobility, if you guys know me, is like, especially right then, because I'm obsessed with cities. And so we just immediately bonded around accessibility and mobility. And so, mind you, I'm connecting with Kanye on a whole. It's a fascinating level that we're connecting. And again, I don't know Kanye at the time. So I'm like, wow, like he thinks about, his mind is very Willy Wonka meets, Walt Disney, which I have a little of that. So I'm like totally relating to him. I'm like, wow, this is like, but he's pushing my Willy Wonka and my Hugh Hefner and my Walt Disney to like a whole other level. So we go into this room and it's just all buttons. Like Kanye's the type of person that will like look at your jacket and be like, yo, that button is really dope. Like, where did you get that button? And so it's like 4 hours of this. This is all the first day. I haven't even gotten to the rest of my time with Kanye. This is just day one. And I'm with these 4 venture-backed founders who are like, what the like, we are in another world. And then homeboy from the Clips was there, Pusha T, he's there. And so we go from like talking about James Turrell, who's, if you know James Turrell's work, Kanye put money into James Turrell's sculpture. James Turrell does a lot of work in, he's a designer. He does installations, and they play with light reflection. They're beautiful, incredible, like conversation pieces, James Turrell. And so Kanye invested in, or did something with James Turrell in sort of one of his pieces in Arizona. In fact, if you watch the Kanye Sunday service, whatever, the thing he did in IMAX, it's shot in the James Turrell thing. It looks like a spaceship. But it plays with like light reflection. It's amazing. And I, by the way, had zero experience with Turrell, so it was just like, wow, this is crazy. So the first meeting we had was like, he and James had built this thing in their office. And so anyway, the day was just like a day of Turrell, fucking, Johnny Ives stories, whatever, all kinds of like, just, he was giving us Kanye designer, thinker, futurist. And it was amazing. It was an amazing day with Kanye. And so I ended up, he got really excited about the skateboard. The skateboard's called Boosted Board. And I ended up, so I ended up becoming friendly with his like architecture, the guys who were building things. And we started having conversations. They were a great group that sat across the street from Kanye's office. And I went to the office one day to have a meeting with them. And they were like, Kanye does this thing called Sunday service. You should come. And I was like, okay, great. So I'm going as a guest of like the architect dude. Like, I don't, and me and Kanye had only met one time, and whatever. So they don't know, no, mind you, Kanye doesn't know that like I'm like a music, like I have a whole background in the music industry. I grew up in the record business. Like but I never really, I purposely never said to him any of those, yeah, I worked at this or did work. He assumed that I work in skateboards or whatever, mobility. And in this season of my life, I am working in mobility and looking at investments. And I didn't feel the need to be like, oh yeah, we did the Fugees or whatever. But by the way, because he didn't work on the Fugees, and we have nothing, there's nothing to talk about. So his context of me is very much what I do today. So he doesn't do any background on me. I obviously know who he is. He's Kanye West. So I go to Sunday service that first time, and it's a fucking reunion for me because I work, at a pretty high level in the music industry. So I'm seeing all the homies. I'm running all like, what? And the architecture dudes are like, oh, how is the how is the venture capital guy know everybody in the room? I'm like, because I had another life before this, right? Like, and so I'm seeing a bunch of people, and so that Sunday service was at the time was on the property in Calabasas that Kanye was building this sort of playground, this sort of thing that I'm talking about. And so I go and I run into my friend Damien. Oh, it's first of all, let me talk about the Sunday service. I grew up in the Black church. Like, I know the Black church. My wife's uncle is a pretty famous AME pastor. I helped start a ministry in a church in Atlanta, Georgia. Like, I know church. I know the music. I understand the culture of Black churches. When I went to that Sunday service, it was like, I remember going, oh, this is like, it was a lot. I mean, there were a smattering of Black folks. Sorry, I keep getting calls. There were a smattering of Black folks who I know understand the Black gospel church experience and know the words to these songs, which are very Sunday Black service songs. But the majority of people there probably never set foot into a Black church or wouldn't understand the culture of the Black church and what it means to our community. So that struck me. But what also struck me is the James Terrell designed a structure that they were doing Sunday service in challenged you that when you were worshiping, so the choir and the everything was happening in the center, and so when you're worshiping, you're not looking at a pastor, you're looking through the choir and the band to the other side to another person. So I'm watching God come over through the music, through the chords, through those spiritual songs that bring me tears every time I'm in church because they hit my heart. And I'm looking across and I could see the Spirit move across people. That is the one thing about gospel music is there are chords that are played. There are sonic frequencies that are played that hit you in your knower. You know, it's the thing about gospel music. And they're playing though if you're Black out there and you're listening to me, you already know what I'm talking about. You already know that chord that when you walk into the church, they're playing that chord. So I'm like overwhelmed. I am praising God. I am worshiping as I would worship in church. And knowing every single song and then looking across and seeing people and stuff. Anyway, so after that thing, you go and you eat tilapia. Kanye has this whole spread of food. And I run into my boy, Damien. And Damien, I know from my Earth, Wind, and Fire days. Longer story, another time. One of my dear friends is Philip Bailey from Earth, Wind, and Fire's, Philip Bailey's son, Sir Bailey from Earth, Wind, and Fire. So I grew up with the Fire. And Damien, I know from the Fire, from the Fire community. And so he's like family, you know what I'm saying? I've known him since he was trying to be an artist in the 90s. And I know him through the whole Denver. Philip Bailey lived in Denver. It's a whole thing, right? So I see my dude, he's like my brother. I see Damien and he's like, mind you, I'm texting with Scooter Braun the whole time. Scooter Braun, this is so crazy. I'm telling the story. So Scooter Braun had been managing Kanye. So I'm assuming Scooter's still managing Kanye. So I'm texting Scooter on the way into Sunday service, like, yo, I'm at your boy's church thing. And I run to Damien and Damien goes, what are you doing here? And I was like, oh, skateboard. No. He's like, bro, I need your help. He's like, yo, I'm managing Kanye now. I'm like, what? You're managing Kanye? That's good. He's like, yeah, I'm managing Kanye. And he's like, we really need you. So that begot, and I'll speed through this because I'm not gonna take 2 hours on this show, but that begot a 6 month, let's call it 8-month journey with Kanye that would find me in the driveway of his Calabasas playground, reading scriptures, talking about fatherhood, going to all the Sunday services and just seeing that and really coming up with some ideas that I don't necessarily want to tell you all the ideas, but essentially me looking at my Kairos moments, right? I built this career. I built this tour called Culture and Code, where we were going to great cities, and I was trying to identify opportunities and people and culture. And then when I was in this KW world, Kanye world, I saw the opportunity to do a lot more with the power of culture and the power of what he was doing with Sunday service. I'll leave it at that. But what I took away from my time with Kanye was, and it was really ironic because I have a family member that's dealing with mental health challenges. And Kanye came out of the same UCLA hospital in the same psych ward that this family member that I have was in. And so I really saw Kanye through the lens of mental health and it was incredible. I think the guy is misunderstood. I don't want to get into all of the the stuff he does with Trump and all of that. I don't support that. I don't want you to even for once think that that's. But what I really think is that I know this just from working in celebrity for a long time. People are misunderstood, and people, and someone like Kanye is really, he is a genius. He is a sampler. He is our generation. He is a hip hop curator and cultural curator. I remember once I went to a meeting. This is so Kanye. Oh my God. So I ended up like having a really intense 6 months with this guy. And I get the sense in working around Kanye that there are lots of people that have these moments. So I don't feel, not that I don't feel special. I feel like Kanye does this. He brings Avengers. I'm an Avenger. He plays Tony Stark. He wants to bring me because I have a very particular giftedness in certain areas. And so Kanye brings together like really, really smart people. I really, really appreciate. I remember he was like showing me, and I'm influenced. There's things I'm doing today in our business that definitely are influenced by this time with Kanye. He would have like this WhatsApp feed, and I'm doing this now in Discord, and it was just like inspiration, and the whole company would like throw in things. I was deeply inspired by that. There were so many moments and so many things. There were some things he was doing running his business that I know I will not do. And there were things that he was doing as a creator, as someone who's managing a creative operation that I thought were just so on point. But one of the things he do is like, I showed up at Kanye at the Calabasas office, and I had the 4 nerdy white guys with me, and they had just flown in again. It was like meeting number 3 for the guys, and they were super excited because they had shaken off the Kanye willies, and now they were feeling really comfortable with Kanye. And this was like our 2nd or 3rd meeting, and we were going to take this relationship further and go deeper with Kanye. And mind you, I'm like forging my own relationship with Kanye that's separate from the Boosted Board people. So I'm working with Boosted Board, and that's my client, and it's great. But I'm also like forging this new mano-a-mano relationship with Kanye, and then my friend Damien, and it was just amazing. And so I'm really doing a great job of translating. I'm speaking KW really well at this point. And this is classic. We show up, everyone's prepared for this meeting, and we show up, and the security's like, it's like 8 a.m. They're like, Kanye? No, he's not here. It's like, no. We just talked to him like last night. I know he's here. We had a whole conversation with him. And they're like, no, turns out Kanye had a meeting with somebody who designs a Japanese guy who designs children's playgrounds. And he was so inspired in the meeting, he just jumped on a plane and like went to Japan and like just boned out. And I was like, what? Like, it's crazy. And you know what? I couldn't even be mad because like that's how I feel sometimes. I get so inspired by things. I'm like, yo, like I was on a call yesterday with Kuwait, and I was like, I wish I could just go fly to Kuwait and like see this thing that I, you know. So I couldn't be mad at Kanye. He was chasing, you know, it's fucked up that these guys like their whole day. And I do hate that when celebrities just assume that like you can just like fuck it. I'm just gonna bone out. And but I secretly was also like, yeah, that's dope as fuck. Like, wow, like he got inspired by something and he jumped on a plane and just went and like chased it. Like that's when I go back to the beginning of this conversation, when I go back to 2021 and 2022 and what I believe is happening with the creative renaissance, roaring 20s, summer of love, where there'll be more creativity, there'll be more things designed, and there'll be more fucking love and fucking. Like it's gonna be great. Like I am so excited. I'm getting my luggage set. I told you I have luggage shame. You know, in LA there's like car shame. There's like literally people have, I don't have it, but because I literally will pull up to Soho Malibu on my boosted board and be like, whatever, this is my car. There is like, I do have luggage shame. I have really bad luggage. So if anybody out there is with a luggage company, if you send me luggage, I swear to you, I'm going to be the best spokesmodel for some swanky ass luggage right now. But I use the word luggage just because we're going to be traveling. We're going to be moving. This room that we're having right here, where I'm looking at Sherry and looking at Mir, and I want Mir to meet Anna, and I want Anna to meet Sean. I want Marcus Logan Marcus Logan already knows Hawaii Mike, but I want Letty to be, you know, having her famous chefs in the corner, and I want Ebenezer to be telling stories. Like, I can't wait to do that with you, with all of you in this space, in these physical spaces. And I'm just really excited. I'm really, really excited about the impact that we can have on the lives of the creative economy, the companies that will be born post-pandemic, post-Clubhouse, that's what we're going to call it, PCH and PP, and global, because I see my friend Anna, you know, who's living in London, like, and the work she's doing in Africa, which I might bring you on stage, Anna. You should talk about the gold mine in Africa. Like that's what I'm most excited about. Even on this platform, on Clubhouse, like I haven't been to Dubai, Middle East in easily 7 years. My relationships right now in Dubai, in the entire MENA region, I haven't passed the 405 freeway, my dude. I'm literally so much more wired in the Middle East right now. And I used to have to go to, the thing about the Middle East is you have to go. I see my friend Paris. I would sit with Paris's father. Remember that? Paris, I sat with your daddy at the Dubai Marina. You have to sit. And you have to have tea. You have to smoke shisha. It's what you do. And I can't do that now. So now I'm drinking tea and smoking shisha on Clubhouse. And we're going to be through this in a minute. I promise we're going to be through this. And when we get through this, what's new? What's different about what we're doing? Like I said, I used to throw parties where, you know, you bring beautiful women and beautiful boys together and everyone has a good time, good music being played, and people get laid and people have sex. That's great. And then I was like, okay, what's the next version of that? I invite people to a great dinner, and Mir meets Fred. Fred becomes her investor. Ebenezer gets inspired by Sherry. They go off and create something. I don't know. Love is found. What's the next version of that? I did that already. What's the next version of that? Is it that we, like I was trying to do with Kanye? That's what I was trying to tell Kanye. It's funny, this Kanye thing. I was trying to tell Kanye, like, it's dope that we can go sing songs about Jesus and move 15,000 people with one, you know, with like several text messages and having networks in these places. But what if you could, like, I don't know, like solve for the water crisis in Flint and sing songs about Jesus? What if you could, like, You know, like there's so much power, you know, and so I'm taking that power, capturing that power, and putting that into the authenticated, you know, around the world, because I believe the next Kanye right now, who's just now hearing, you know, all the great works that Kanye has done. There's somebody right now who's just now hearing that for the first time around the world, and I'm excited for them. You know, I'm excited for the unleashing of genius, the unleashing and unpacking of great people who are doing incredible things. And so I'm incredibly humbled, incredibly honored, and that one person would even listen to me on this thing. Shout out to my Twitch family that's been watching me for a really long time. Shout out to you guys who are listening to me tell stories of Kanye West and Kairos and life in general. There's more. I gave you a pinky toe deep into my Kanye thing. That Easter show at Coachella was really that was a moment. I do remember, out of all the Sunday services that I did go to, I was great just to have my family there and to sing, you know, songs that we would sing in church, and to do it in the middle of Coachella. I remember like going, because I didn't stay at Coachella. I just like boned out. I like left LA at like 6, 7 in the morning, and we were just driving on the way to Coachella, and then we pulled up, and Kanye built a mound so that he was on top of the mound. Like they filled in this area and built like a mound, because everything in Kanye's world was circles. So at the top, everything was like round. It was just crazy. I mean, the things he did. And so anyway, I wanted to reflect on Kanye because I saw that there was a room, but it also gave me a chance to kind of tell a story I had not yet told. I've not blogged about this. I don't talk a lot about it. It was an incredibly profound moment for me. 6 months wasn't a long time. I'm not, and I'm not like, best friends with Kanye. It was just, sliding door. It was like a moment where we cross paths. And if I see Kanye now, if I text him now, it's all love, like, but it's, we had our moment together, and I really appreciate it. I don't want to work with Kanye now. That's not something that I feel like my spirit and my workflow would work. But at that moment, Kanye needed me and I needed Kanye. And it was great. It was great to serve people. I mean, I believe in servant leadership, and I believe at that moment, at that particular moment, for those 6 months, that Kanye needed me and I needed Kanye. And I am deeply appreciative of that Kairos. Oh my God. That's exactly what Kairos is. That's exactly what Kairos is. Oh, thank you, God. So I have enjoyed every minute of this. I guess I could take some questions if I really, but I don't really, if y'all weird, I don't really want to get into a whole Kanye conversation. So I'm just going to kind of limit my thing a little bit, because I don't really want to get into a whole Kanye thing. That's not why I'm here. This is my weekly show, but I am turning hand raising on in case any of my people that I'm closest to want to ask questions about Kanye. But I'm not trying to make this about Kanye. I just wanted to use Kairos and Kanye in the same sentence, and I think that I effectively did that. But it was like so many other moments, that I've had in my career. One that I've had distance to now reflect on it. I mean, there was some shitty shit that happened, like business shit that I don't love, but that's the beauty of of distance and space, is that I can look at the Kanye moment, and I can look at that time that we spent, and and even the time I spent with Damien, my friend who was managing Kanye at the time, as a beautiful moment. In fact, I got to call Damien today. Shit. But yeah, and the fact that I knew Damien through Earth, Wind, and Fire, and that was all weird, and I hadn't really worked with Damien. I wish he was on here. I should call him in here. And I hadn't really worked with Damien, and Damien, who managed Raphael Sadiq and Anderson .Paak, and Travis works for Irving Azoff. I'd never really spent time in the Irving Azoff world. That was cool. I loved, like, I read stories about Azoff, but that was pretty cool. Just like seeing what Damien was doing inside of that company was great. So anyway, I look at it all as like a real moment that I really appreciated. Just a lot of things. And one of those things when you work, I didn't really have a plan for what would come out of that thing. I didn't really, and I kind of like that. There was a moment where I could have gone further with Kanye, and I chose not to. And I remember distinctly on my porch having a conversation with him. Meaning he was on the phone. Meaning I take a lot of calls from my porch, and I remember like pacing my porch, talking to him, and recognizing like I didn't really want to, like, it was cool, but it wasn't that cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, nah, that ain't. And sometimes you gotta do that, right? Like in life, like you gotta recognize when, I think that's Kairos, right? Recognizing when, okay, that was cool, but like that doesn't mean I'm supposed to do that, right? Like that's all good. For me in celebrities, I need distance. Like I grew up in celebrity world, so I need a buffer. Like I can't. Sometimes I need, and for that, Kanye had like fired my friend Damien, and it was like mano a mano, me and Kanye, and I was like, I don't really know. I need friction. I need a layer. I don't really like, because I struggle with that. But I think that Kanye is misunderstood, and I think mental health is real, and I think that I have had an incredible lesson between my own family and working with Kanye um, around the genius of mental health. I want to reframe mental health for those that are out there. This is like a level of genius I can't even really describe. It is in touch with a spirit that is unfair. There is, so when I'm talking about mental health, I don't want there to be this whole sob thing, and it is a superpower. It is a superpower. It is a superpower. And I really, really believe that um, appreciating mental health through the lens of it being a superpower is what I've learned in this. I'm gonna invite my friend Dow Jones up. I love it because I'll just sit up here and riff all goddamn day. I love it. People are asking questions. That's great. What's up, Dow? Yeah. mm, 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 mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's it. That's it. And that's also Dow why I love hip hop. You know what I'm saying? It's I always say hip hop is the original lean startup, right? Like we are the original founders, and I'm not taking anything away from Hewlett and Packard, who went to my high school, by the way, or any of the greats in Silicon Valley, but there is a resilience and perseverance, um, that it is that greatness. And thank you for recognizing that my storytelling is just about who you meet along the journey. I just happened to meet Kanye West. I mean, I meet people all the time. I meet Sherry. I met Fred along the journey. I met Ebenezer in Atlanta. I met Hawaii Mike. I went to Brazil with Tammy, with Shaka Khan. Like, I have a story for every person in this bubble. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My dude. Yep. Yeah, totally. Man, that serendipity. Oh, let me tell you a crazy story. I mean, that has been my entire life, really, honestly. Like, I remember I was taking my son on a college visit, and we were going to Syracuse, and this woman, that I knew on Twitter saw I was in Syracuse, and she was like, "Oh, go see my dad," and I was like, "Okay." And so I called her dad. He was a professor at Syracuse. He had been the CEO of the Kauffman Foundation, and so I went on the campus. I'm taking my kid on the visit, and oh, I'm sorry. You know what? Twitch World. I'm sorry. I just shut you guys down. You guys are like watching me answer questions. I love you. You're great. Thank